interesting thing that got everybody's attention was cutting 34,000 troops out of the total of 60,000 in Afghanistan this year, a little faster than people thought. I thought the more interesting part was moving forward into a real commitment to do something about the Middle East.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, we knew that there was going to be significant drawdown in Afghanistan. It is in line with expectations. 34,000 is sort of the middle number between what we thought was going to happen, and it does mean Obama's fulfilling his promise to draw down in Afghanistan. But you're right. We've seen a focus on the Middle East. You know, he mentioned that he's going to Israel. You know, this is in contrast to what we've heard for, you know, a year on the pivot to Asia or the rebalance to Asia. And so we, you know, a recognition that this problem's, you know, got to be dealt with.
Yeah.
Jerry, when a president of the United States goes to Israel, he must have something in mind, some message to deliver, or does he have a peace plan in his suitcase?
He is not going to have a peace plan, that's for sure. But he is going to have some things that he's going to try to do, and it's interesting he's going to Israel to do them. And this is about sending messages to everybody in the region, not just to Israel. But it starts with sending messages to people in Israel. Like, don't listen to the Prime Minister of Israel's interpretation of me. That would be Prime Minister Netanyahu, a guy that doesn't get along with the president at all. Let me tell you about my own commitment to the state of Israel, but also tell you why, in a Middle East that is being remade right now because of the Arab Spring, why it's in Israelis' interest to think about solving the Palestinian problem. I don't have a plan. It's not going to happen this year, but you need to think about getting yourself right with the Arab world where there's a lot of change underway. And by the way, you have to be able to say to that Arab world while you're there, you know, we're going to deal with the new leadership of the Arab world, but we're going to deal with all aspects of the problem, and you have to punch the Palestinian ticket in doing that. You have to say to the new, more Islamist leaders in the Middle East, we're going to take the Palestinian problem seriously. Even if you can't do anything about it, you really have to do that. And then at some point, people have to talk about what happens in Syria right next door in Israel, and it's a chance to start having that conversation as well. And you know, I think it'll be interesting to see the president start an evolution toward a second term in which, if he's like every other president that gets a second term, he spends more time on foreign policy as time goes on.
Right. Well, he kind of signaled that when he elevated a national security advisor to be his chief of staff, that foreign policy is going to play a key role. And the Israel trip, he's also going to go to the West Bank and Jordan, and I mean, he's sending an important message. It's his first major trip of the foreign trip of the second term, and so he chose that for an important reason and to send a message.
Yeah, and I don't think you can be president of the United States, have as much at stake in the region as we do, see a region that's undergoing as much change as the Middle East is right now, with a new Muslim Brotherhood president in Egypt, with a new government in place in Libya, something new developing in Syria, and lots of concern about whether the U.S. can work with Islamist leaders in the region and just ignore it. And so I think he's making a down payment now, and I think it's going to be up to the Secretary of the State and the new Secretary of Defense to make good on the down payment.
Right. I mean, he signaled engagement with the world. That's what a lot of the foreign policy experts wanted in Washington, wanted to hear, and he said that. Now, what's the follow-up? And, you know, how does that Syrian conflict evolve, and does it force the White House to go in a different direction than they sort of have signaled that they want to go in?
Do you think they're going to manage to avoid sending arms, sending even troops to Syria?
I think that they will avoid sending troops to Syria. I think that they just do not want to own that problem in a way that putting troops on the ground will make you own that problem. But it's going to be very hard to keep the current posture. They're going to have to make a decision on aid to these groups inside Syria.
But I think that they have decided that they watched Iraq. In 10 years, you break it, you own it. Syria's already broken. You move in with arms. You either do that if you can tip the balance to a real conclusion that you like, and I don't think that some modest amount of arms is going to do that. On the other hand, if you're going to go in a big enough way to actually determine the outcome, you really do own the place, and those are two bad choices, I think. So I think that this president has made a decision to stay away from Syria as long as he can. That doesn't mean forever, but they're not leaning forward into going into Syria, at least not in my opinion.